What's good, YouTube? Pro Jody here, bringing you our latest exhibition match of the 3.5. This week it's an exhibition match against the New Jersey Toxicroaks, head coached by Joe. He's really sound guy. I had a lot of conversations. He's actually as well one of the people who I do bounce ideas off in team building. So it will be. He knows my thought process quite a lot. So this match should be quite interesting. To see how well he can read how I will approach things. His team is actually quite interesting. I'll quickly pull them up now. So as you can see, our guys on the left there, familiar roster now. On the right, Joe was one of the minority coaches who took a lower tier mega. So in terms of the point buy system, he took a lower tiered mega, meaning he gets more points available on his paid picks for those things. So that did mean that he did manage to scoop up Primarina, Lucario and NJ, who are all super clutch picks. Coupling that, Mega Bayonet isn't actually the weakest thing. It does only one job. It's similar to a few of the megas like Lopunny. That it does one thing, but it does it exceptionally well. Downside is Mega Bayonet's way of doing things is a little bit round the houses. It's not like a Mega Lopunny where it just comes in, or Mega Beedrill, it just comes in and hits things. It does have a little bit of sap and a little bit more to it. So couple that with a few nice ones that he does have floating about there. Gliscor, Noivern, Lucario and Primarina, who I already mentioned, and Entei, all kind of do massive outputs. Ambipom and Chinchino, massive normal stab there. Shaman's pretty versatile. It does get access to some of the sleeping and status C shenanigans, but also Grass is a pretty strong type against some of my mons. So I have managed to counter that a bit, but Shaman could cause problems. Not gonna lie, Cresselia is just an absolute solid wall. It's kind of similar sort of thing to our Uxie in terms of defense. Well, it is basically same as our Uxie in terms of defensive typing and stats. However, it does do a slightly different role because Cresselia is more kind of bulk, sets up and stalls, whereas Uxie is more kind of a setup support type role. So, as much as they're quite similar, they do very different jobs within the team. Looking at his team, you can see that there does seem to be, particularly in some of the core of his team with Gliscor, Noivern, Shaman, there is a bit of a weakness to the ice type there. So that could be quite relevant and important for us to note. In terms of other things as well, he does have, similar to us, he's got quite a bit of immunity floating around to ground type. So won't put too much of a focus on that. Mega Bayonet does have Prankster, so we do need to kind of play around that a little bit, just so he can't get that set up on us as easy as he might like. In terms of who we are going to bring, speed control is going to be quite important this game. I feel he has a lot of mons who not only have a lot of speed, but they do have a bit of priority in there and things like that. So speed control is going to be quite important for us in this match. Other than that, I feel quite comfortable going into this. So I feel the normal sort of usual suspects will probably make an appearance. I feel Gligar might actually make his debut this week as well. Looking at the team, I feel he's got a strong matchup. Plus, it'll be quite entertaining to do the whole Gligar versus Gliscor, and we do have the Battle of the Entei's there as well. So in terms of rosters, they're not too dissimilar. When you actually break it down like that, there's a lot in common in these lists, but also some quite big differences as well. So I'll now flip over and take a look at who we are bringing. Alright, so this is our team who we are bringing against the Rotoms. So start off with, we do have Latios here. Now Latios, there is quite a bit of speed creeping going on in this match because Joe has a very fast team. So Noivern normally without scarfs outspeeds my whole team. So the way I've had to build it is Latios is built to outspeed the non Choice Scarfed Noivern. That's kind of the way I've had to do it. So only way I can do that is with Choice Scarf. We are actually bringing 3 Choice Scarf users. There's no limits on items, so we can kind of play around all of this sort of stuff quite comfortably with no real sort of issues there. Moves are pretty standard, giving us coverage, just basically normal sort of thing, covering as many bases as we can. Those extra 80 should be in there. There we go, just edit that as we go, make sure we don't miss anything out. So yeah, we have pretty solid set there and plenty of coverage for that. So next up, oh my gosh, I haven't even got that in there as well. Good thing I am actually going through and checking this as I go. So next up is our second Choice Scarf user. We have NJ. Now NJ is our second Choice Scarf and is built to outspeed. He can't catch up to Noivern, the max invested Noivern. Even with the Choice Scarf, he can't catch up. So he is built to outspeed the Ambipom and Cinccino at max speed. So we've given the coverage on those as well. So Sacred Fire, Stomping Tantrum and Crunch. I have included the extreme speed in there, which basically is there purely for going up against the Noivern. So if we do need to clear out against Noivern, we can still outspeed it with the priority extreme speed. But for the main part, we've just set up that speed so that we outspeed the 115 speed tier of Ambipom and Cinccino, which also then covers everything on his team minus Noivern and Choice Scarf users. Coverage there, pretty much self-explanatory. Crunch takes out Bayonet, Cresselia, does work against those. Sacred Fire comes in super nice against the Steelix and the Lucario. Stomping Tantrum is the only one we've got to be really careful using. That is there again for Lucario, but also the NJ, because we are choiced. We do need moves that will cover as many options as possible. So yeah, it's pretty standard sort of thing. Oh my days, what is going on with my EVs? I really need to check these. Luckily there was only 4 left on that one. So next up we have Honchkrow. Honchkrow, again, this is the third Choice Scarfer. Now Honchkrow is built to outspeed the 100 speed tier, which means it can't outspeed Noivern, Ambipom or Cinccino, but it can outspeed Shaman and NJ. Again, this is minus Choice Scarfers. It's built to just outspeed those. Went with pretty much standard sort of set that we would, with the Brave Punch power, and hit the Pursuit Trap in this one as well, because Bayonet and Cresselia don't want to stay in on this, so having the Pursuit Trap does give us that extra little bit to be able to hit them with, which would be super clutch. Flipping over, we have Mega Diancie now. We have went with a very different set to what we have traditionally so far, and I've went with an extremely bulky set. I've kind of split things around quite nicely there. So I've put all of the EVs into the defensive stats. I then went with the nature being positive, just to give us that little nudge. The reason for that is because for Diamond Storm and Play Rough, so Play Rough takes out the Noivern with that positive, whereas without it, it's a roll. Diamond Storm is just gives us the good solid coverage, and we do need that extra little bit there. And basically Diamond Storm hits everything that the Play Rough doesn't. We've went with the more supporty sort of side of things. We do have the Stealth Rock and Toxic on there as well, just to give us that extra little bit of coverage in there, in that supporty sort of role. So Deontay's going to be one of our main Stealth Rock setters for this one, if not the main one, and should come in. It should hopefully be able to actually last a bit longer than normally it does. But I'm hoping that he's going to kind of expect a lot more of an offensive set, and we'll play around that, which means that we can get away with the Stealth Rocks and set up in a few Toxics. Because I can't really see any solid options for him to bring as Clerics. Maybe Shaman, but Shaman we can deal with relatively easily. So this brings us into our next bulky, which is our Celesteela. Now, it is bulky, however, it is... I've kind of role reversed Celesteela and Deontay this match. So rather than have the offensive Deontay and the defensive Celesteela, I flipped them on the head, because Celesteela, with its bulk, can take hits from most of his team, and the moves it gets with Hidden Power Ice and Flamethrower do so much work. So Gliscor, Noivern, Shaman just do not want to stand on Hidden Power Ice. Lucario, Steelix just don't want to stand on a Flamethrower. We then have leftovers Toxic and Protect, so we can even still stall mons out as well, like the Mega Bayonet, like the Cresselia, like the Entei in the Primarina. We can stall those mons out as well. Which, fingers crossed, that's kind of backup plan, but we've stacked things up so that way if we get that if we get the Beast Boost, it will go on to Special Attack as well. And we're not exactly short on bulk either, because we have 180 in each of our special defense stats, and in each of our defensive stats. So we're built pretty solidly there. And you know, an offensive Celesteela might catch him off guard. You never know. And rounding off the team, we have our debut. It's not a league debut; it's an exhibition debut, but it still counts. And that is our Gligar. He's going to be our main defog user, and he's there just kind of in a normal utility sort of role, with the defog, knockoff, U-turn and roost. He does have immunity from the toxic, from poison, which is always nice, gives him an extra immunity, and it does mean that Gligar has 3 immunities in the electric, the ground and poison, so that is super nice. Gives us plenty of options to pivot into him as well. And he's kind of there as a utility, but obviously Celesteela, Entei, Larios and Honchkrow are kind of the main options that we're looking at to get those KOs. So without further ado, we'll flip over and we'll see how things go in the match. Okay, so looking at Joe's team here, it's pretty much the core of the team that I expected. He brought both Ambipom and Chinchino. The only difference was I was expecting one of those and Noivern, which I'm kind of super happy to not see Noivern as his fastest mon. That does just mean that both Entei and Larios now outspeed all of his team minus Scarfers, which is super nice. So let's get into it. So the leads pretty much go as expected. I go with an offensive lead in Larios because I see no Noivern. I'm like, well, I could just go pressure hard. Now I missed the Draco Meteor straight away, which me and Joe were talking before the match, and we both have lost matches this season due to hacks of misses and things like that. And so we both laughed it off, and yeah, so the Draco Meteor would have hit that. If that had connected turn 1, that would have been super nice. So we then pivot and we end up in Deontay versus Entei. I really don't like that on the basis of it could Scorching Sands me or something similar. So we pivot into Honchkrow, and the Sacred Fire, I believe the crit mattered there. So we both, I'm kind of on the back foot here with the hacks. And then the Sacred Fire takes out Larios, because I was on kind of tilt at this point and made a few really bad decisions. But we do end up Entei into Gliscor now. So he has the Toxic Heal, which is pretty much standard, and we go into the Celesteela, expecting him to stay in here. and try and catch him out with the hidden power ice, because we can live the Stone Edge, we know we can, and we absolutely dominate him with that hitting the 70%. Now, this is where I forgot one lovely tiny little thing with Roost, that you land and you lose your flying type, which means that I go from being quad effective to double effective, which means that my damage output on it just halved because he's healing, which kind of sucked for me, but I do keep continuing to go in. Now at this point I realise he's probably going to tag out, so I do make the hard switch expecting him to as well, and I was right, he did tag out into NT, and I tag out into Gligar, predicting that's super nice. Now he does hit a Sacred Fire thing. At this point I'm kind of wishing I bought the Earthquake, but I hadn't, so I hit him with the knockoff, get rid of his band, which is super nice to reduce his output. He does get the burn, and I think without that I might have been able to have beaten him with the knockoff. So I'm not taking any chances at this point. I hit him with the extreme speed just in case he's rocking the same, and we're now in 4 against 3. Now this is where the comeback begins. So Celesteela is there taking the hits, see the fake out coming in, so I pivoted into Celesteela. He knocks off the leftovers, which isn't that brilliant, but I do get the Toxic off, which is super nice. At this point U-turns off into Bayonet, which I hit with a Flamethrower, and it really does not like that. So he hits the Destiny Bond, and I'm like, oh poop. And it survives on 1%. Now, I could have stayed in and Toxic and then not had to worry about the Destiny Bond, because if it dies of poison, Destiny Bond doesn't trigger. But looking at the mons he's got left, I want to be in Deontay when Mega Bayonet dies. So I switch to Deontay and kill it with the Toxic from Deontay rather than Celesteela. So we now Mega Evolve to flip those defensive stats into offensive, and we hit the Diamond Storm onto the Gliscor, which it really does not like, finishing it off with another Diamond Storm, and we're now left Ambipom and Lucario against Mega Deontay. So expecting that fake out again, I pivot into the Celesteela and hit with a fake out. Now we've only really seen fake out and U-turn at this point, so I hit the Protect just to scout out and see if he's going to do anything different, and he doesn't go. He goes to U-turn. I see the only mon left is Lucario, so I click on the Flamethrower, expecting that U-turn, which he does. Flamethrower OHKOs the Lucario completely. We get that Beast Boost trigger off, which puts us in a super strong position. He hits that fake out on us, nothing we can do about that. It gives him 1 turn on the Toxic there. We go for the Protect to stall that out for another turn. We know we're not going to get any recovery, but it does mean he is going to start increasing and just taking damage because he's in for turns. The knockoff does take out the Celesteela, and then drops him below 40 from the Toxic damage, so a nice extreme speed from Entei guarantees us the win there. So yeah, that was super clutch match. Absolute props to Joe there. So with that, we are currently 1-1 in exhibitions against the top division teams. So kind of a close fought thing. Could have went either way, especially with the way those hacks were dropping early on. I really thought I was about to just get stuffed, but we managed to pull it back. But yeah, Joe, it was a brilliant game there. I'm gonna, I know Joe has YouTube and stuff, so I'm gonna tag it in the description below. If you haven't done already, please drop a like on my video, hit that subscribe button, and if not, and when you're done, have a look over on Joe's. Take a look at his thought process, what he did for prep, everything like that. He's a good battler, obviously he is. He's in top division. He knows his stuff. And fingers crossed, we should have a few more exhibitions coming up. I know Neil, who is head coach of Twin Leaf Piplups, I believe. He's interested, and there is a couple of other people I've got my eye on that I do want to try and organise matches against. And I will try and get those organised before the end of the season. I'm also wanting to try and organise exhibitions against the guys who I don't get a chance to play in regular season, because there's 16 coaches, I only play 12. So those last 4 coaches I would love exhibition matches against, but I'm probably going to wait until playoff time for those, just because if I'm going to play one of them in playoffs, I don't want to play them in an exhibition. So that's how I'm going to kind of work those matches. But no, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll hopefully have our next league match up pretty soon. So at the time of recording this, we have beat the Kentucky Garchomps. We're currently sat 2-1. Fingers crossed we're going to make it 3-1 later today, and hopefully kind of pull up and get another W and keep us on that X1 path. So hopefully see you guys again next time. Ciao.